Hi, good morning. Welcome everyone to this exciting webinar brought to you by the team at Public Sector Executive in conjunction with LeasePlan. My name is Matthew Walters. I'm Head of Consultancy Services for LeasePlan in the UK, and I'll be your host today. In case you're wondering why I look nothing like my profile picture, yes, it's Movember, and all our mental health first aiders are taking part in a global initiative this year, so I look a little bit more furry than I normally do. Today, we'll be delving into how the public sector maintain current fleets whilst navigating budget and environmental targets. What are the challenges? How do we overcome them, yet also meet the environmental and budgetary pressures? To help us delve into these, I'm joined today by a brilliant group of guests, a huge amount of rich expertise. We'll bring them into the conversation shortly, but with me today, I have Chris Demetrious from London Borough of Islington. I have Alex Cummings from Durham County Council. I have Catherine Hiles from LeasePlan, and I also have Lee Nichols from LeasePlan, who are both part of our dedicated public sector team. But before I pick the brains of my esteemed guests, let me set the scene for you first and explain some of the great functionality we have on offer today to ensure that you, our audience, get the opportunity to contribute to the conversation. You can do this by using the live Q&A tools on the right-hand side of your screen. Pop a question in there and it'll come straight through to me, ready to put to our guests, and I'll make sure we save some time at the end. As mentioned, today's conversations are all about the relationship between the public sector and electric vehicles. It's no secret that the shift to electric vehicles is a big part of many local authoritative net zero strategies, and here lies the first challenge: the cost of transitioning from ICE, or internal combustion engine vehicles, to electric. In March 22, the government announced a £1.6 billion funding package to boost EV charging across the UK, with local authorities set to play a crucial role. The UK government has emphasised the crucial role of local authorities in meeting the country's transport decarbonisation targets by announcing plans to boost the number of public electric charge points to 300,000 by 2030. The breakdown of the 500 million is 450 million will be used to create a local EV infrastructure fund, or the Levi Fund, through which local authorities will be able to leverage private sector investment in bidding for support to install on-street charging points in hubs. This fund is administered by the Energy Savings Trust, who we as LeasePlan recently partnered with at Fleet Live. 50 million will be used to train staff to work on charger planning and implementation. And the Levi Fund, introduced for the 22-23 financial year, joins existing government schemes that together add up to £620 million worth of support for local authorities to aid the transition to EVs. But what about the cost per vehicle? We all know that the upfront cost of an EV is 2 to 3 times the cost of an ICE-based vehicle. So how does a local authority maintain services and fleet levels with this extra cost? With our panel, we explore how can the public sector maintain current fleets whilst navigating budget and environmental targets. And this is especially important now in light of last week's autumn statement. Whilst the long-term OBR forecast has a number of assumptions baked in, it is clear that we are facing a tough few years, with cuts to budgets a certainty. Whilst we now have certainty on tax rates, we still don't know what will happen to fuel or vehicle excise duty in the March budgets. Whilst the government are maintaining their environmental commitments and remain committed to the 2030 ambitions and beyond, we still have not started a meaningful dialogue on road user pricing. This would seem an inevitability given the £34.8 billion worth of tax that will shrink ever faster as more and more electric vehicles hit our roads. So as part of today, we'll be running some poll questions to get your feedback. So please join in and let us know your thoughts. Let's start the first poll actually straight away whilst we have our first discussion. And that first poll is just about what's the biggest challenge facing your fleet today. Okay, that's enough of me for the moment. So let's bring into the conversation for our experts, the people you're truly here to listen from. So first of all, I'll ask each of our guests to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their role and what they do on a day-to-day basis. So coming to you, Chris, first, would you care to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for the brilliant introduction. I think you've covered quite a lot of some of the issues that we're all facing. And actually, I'll tell you some of my story in the next few minutes. I'm Chris Demetrious. I'm the head of corporate fleet transport and accessible community transport here in Islington. I've been here for just over 20 years, really, but doing this sort of corporate fleet role for the last 2 years, and we've had quite a journey over the last few years, and I'll sort of get into that now over the next few minutes. So just a little bit about Islington. So we're the second smallest London borough, around 6 square miles, with a population of 206,000 people. So you will say, with such a small borough, what range anxiety? But again, we do have some of that, which I'll get to. We've got around 530 vehicles in our fleet at the moment, and that's from cars and vans and sweepers, cage tippers, refuse collection vehicles, buses, and other sort of bits of plant. We're approaching 80 full battery electric vehicles at the moment, and we should have 100 on our fleet by sort of early next year. We've also got sort of 30 odd hybrids and 2 compressed natural gas vehicles on the fleet. Again, like many local authorities, we declared a climate emergency in 2019, and that was followed up a year later with our Vision 2030 net zero strategy. So that's when things really sort of kicked on for us. I think the council here, very innovative, and it made an environmental decision to move away from fossil fuel vehicles and to get alternatives in. And our preferred option at the moment is to electrify the vehicle based on sort of the current options out there at the moment. So when we do electrify our fleet by sort of 2030, we hope we know we'll be saving around 3,000 tonnes of CO2 per annum. And again, environmentally, this is why we're going down that route. We are looking at other alternatives as well. We've looked at hydrogen. We know there's issues with cost infrastructure at the moment, which is just not feasible for us to go in that direction as yet. We're looking at other maybe sort of transition fuels as well. We're looking at biodiesels like hydro vegetable treated oil to see if that can help our emissions as we electrify more of the fleet. So on top of that, we're trying to reduce the fleet as much as we can as well. We've probably got vehicles in that 530 amount of vehicles that probably are not used as much as they should. Working from home over the last 2 years during the pandemic has shown us that actually we probably can reduce fleet. So we're trying to actively do that as well. We're encouraging residents, we're encouraging our own staff to use more public transport, to walk, to carry out site visits, on foot. We've got current pool bikes as well. We've got e-bikes, we've got cargo bikes we've just introduced as well. So whilst vehicles are great, and whilst electric vehicles are our preferred option, if we can reduce the fleet and use alternative modes of transport, then again, cost-wise, emission-wise, that'll bring some savings to us as well. Matt, do you want me to carry on some of sort of the related sort of projects that we're working on?
Well, we should probably leave some for some of the segments, actually.
Yeah. Okay, no worries.
Fantastic introduction. That's absolutely great. Thank you. Alex, coming to you. Alex Cummings from Durham County Council. Would you care to give you a quick introduction and part of the role and the fleet overview?
Yeah, certainly. My name is Alex Cummings. I'm Durham County Council's County Fleet Manager, Strategic Manager for Fleet. We have a fleet of a couple of hundred all licensed vehicles, about 1,100 plus light vehicles, a couple of thousand items of plant.
Wow.
Hugely varied topography of Durham County. County Durham's a urban and rural, probably the polar opposite to Chris's domain, really. We've got many sort of struggles within that, because to have, the ideal is battery electric vehicles. We have the refuse vehicle, 26-ton Dennisy Collect BEV. We've been procurement exercises now to get the sort of minivan up to 2.5-ton van range, because of the development in the market, because they are the most sort of advanced, readily available, and sort of do a job already, and that helps it fit within the sort of budget model as well, given the autumn statement, the obvious lack of funds that's going to be within local authorities in the future years. You've got to target it somewhere. You with the best of intentions, the best will in the world, we would all love to switch to BEV straight away. It isn't going to happen. We've got to, you look around County Durham, uphill, down dale, little conurbations here and there, many miles between them. It creates its own issues, and then you have sort of working from home. There's lots of services because of the spread of the county where they're based from home. So how do you get that electric vehicle to be able to operate from a home that may be 20, 30 miles from the nearest depot?
Yeah, I
think it froze, Matt.
our 3 segments for today. Thank you for that, Alex. Catherine, coming to you, quick introduction.
Yes, hi, thank you very much. Great, everybody's on the webinar today. Thank you for your time. I'm Catherine Hiles. I'm an account director in the new business team at LeasePlan. I've been here 23 years, and my absolute focus is new business and utilities. So lots of experience speaking to councils, charities, education, housing sector, and yeah, living those problems with you guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kat. And yourself, Lee, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So yes, I'm Lee Nichols. I've been at LeasePlan for 19 years. My role is Head of Strategic Partnerships and Public Sector. So I am directly responsible for the account management team that look after our public sector customers, but also responsible for the wider public sector team we have within LeasePlan. Which is about 35 people, 35 champions we have across our business that look after public sector, and all of those vehicles that come with that. So yeah, very much as Catherine said, we're sort of trying to help people through the current challenges that the industry is facing.
Thank you, Lee. Right, so let's get to our first question. So first session really, and first discussion area. So in the context of spiraling energy costs, ongoing disruption to vehicle deliveries, and ever tighter budgets, public sector fleet and transport managers have never had a better time to demonstrate their true value to an organisation. But how can public sector fleet managers realistically reduce cost without compromising the delivery of services? Chris, why don't we come to you first on that one?
Yeah, I think we're quite fortunate here in Islington, because when the council declared that climate emergency, when following from that Vision 2030 strategy, they made a huge investment on electrifying the fleet. So they almost doubled our current fleet replacement budget to around 38 million over a 10-year period, which sounds a lot, but you're looking at about 3.9 million per year. It sounds a lot, but when you're buying refuse collection vehicles, as my colleague in Durham said as well, at sort of £400,000, it only takes you so far. So we've got some real life data showing, we're using a lot less fuel. We're saving money by not using as much fuel. Just an example, and again on a refuse collection vehicle, we're saving around 17,000 litres of diesel at around £26,000 per year per refuse vehicle. And if you compare that to one of our upcycled electric refuse collection vehicles, last year it used 11,000 kilowatt hours over that 12-month period at 3,700. So £26,000 compared to 3,700. Again, that's a bit of a saving there, and we'll see that them savings over the next 5 or 6 years, hoping that energy prices stay to where they are now. So this time last year we were paying around 15p per kilowatt for energy. Last few months have been 35, 40p. Who knows, next year we'll be paying 70, 75, 80, maybe more. But as long as it's still sort of cheaper than diesel, then we'll still hopefully we'll see them costs cost savings over the next few years. So we're still hedging our bets on going down the electric route, and we still think, again, long term we'll save some money. And actually, like I said earlier, we've made an environmental decision to do so. So ultimately, CO2 reduction of greenhouse gas is still our priorities at the moment. Even though it's getting a bit more difficult with the cost of living crisis and the energy crisis, that is still our priority. So yeah, I'm definitely quite in a fortunate position. I know other colleagues and other local authorities might not be, but yeah. So there's still savings to be made if you take out the initial capital costs for these vehicles and infrastructure, which is obviously easier said than done, really.
Indeed, Alex, I guess you're facing similar challenges. Certainly, our live poll. I've just had a quick squidge as we go, and yeah, indeed, achieving net zero commitments and aspirations. 45% of respondents are saying that's their biggest challenge at the moment. I'm sure you don't find that surprising, Alex. But how are you tackling this issue?
Not surprising at all. The as I said earlier, the focus we've got is on a particular segment of vehicles at the minute. We've looked at sort of what you can do across a whole fleet. Because of the nature of sort of council vehicles, they're so specialist and quite often power hungry that the battery electric market doesn't really work. You go into commercial vehicles, there aren't very many hybrid vehicles, you know, so even to switch to sort of plug-in hybrids, etc., the market's not that well developed. We've got we have a Dennis Collect. It'll never be financially viable in the sense of paying for itself. You know, environmentally, absolutely. You know, to boost at the depot where it's at, we've got a 100 kilowatt solar array on the roof to power the charges during the day. So, you know, we're looking at wind power in the depots. I manage sort of 6 depots as well and 4 workshops. So we're looking at a quite holistic sort of approach to it. So power generation as well as just the particular kinds of vehicles, you know. As I said, the focus, what we've got is on what we would describe as a midi van, so sort of up to 2.5 ton vans. So things like your Peugeot Partner, Peugeot Expert, that sort of size and range. Because you can give a sort of whole life total cost of ownership relatively accurately, you know, and sort of on current modelling, it's around about 8 years for a break even. So we have a replacement plan where historically it would be every 5 years we would renew the fleet. We do that with a view now that it'll be 7 or 8 years, depending on which way the numbers stack up. So you're extending the life. The flip side of that as well, and where the leasing companies come into this is, depends on how you finance the vehicles. If you buy them outright and it's a capital cost, well, that's one thing. If, like Durham County Council, we lease the money to buy them, sort of thing, you know. So with operational lease, depends on how many pounds per thousand that you charge for an electric vehicle compared to an ICE vehicle. And a year ago when we were looking at this, it could be up to 50% more expensive to get the same amount of funding for a BEV because of the uncertainty in sort of, you know, the residual values on these things. So we don't have the same infrastructure because we're such the sort of rural county. The inner city infrastructure where you've got charge points on lots of places, that doesn't exist in County Durham. We're making huge strides. You know, my colleague who was going to attend here, Tracy Milmore, is, you know, we've got Levi funding to do stuff in the public domain. It's a little bit, we've got to sort of encompass that within our fleet delivery. You know, we can't rely on just depot charging. We can't rely on just on street charging. We've got to think a bit more creatively about it, you know, and for cost reductions, you know, at the minute we run our electric vehicles for free. We don't have many, to be fair, but we run them for free because we're generating our own power.
I mean, these are really interesting points that you raise, Alex, and also as well dealing with lots of clients some whose vehicles come back to the depot at night, but a lot that don't. The drivers take them home. So there's that whole scenario where the drivers, even if they can have a charge point fitted at home, don't want to park their vehicle, their company van, where their private car would go. So obviously their van's on the street and they're saying, well, you know, I'm not charging my van on at home. So it presents more problems. And even for those that are in less rural areas, that very issue is a big challenge.
And to be fair, I mean, we're trying to sort of sweeten the pill a little bit with, if we put a home charger in, obviously the payment of the bills wouldn't, you know, the end user wouldn't be met with any costs. It would all be done via a third party. But to release that charger to whoever within that household to enable them to have an electric vehicle potentially, you know, given that you've got to pay for charging points now if you want one in your home, it's a sort of, you know, it's a bit of a sweetener, but it also helps with the whole climate emergency response, doesn't it? You know, if we can encourage people to have their own electric vehicles as well, you know, we look at it sort of blinkered a little bit within our own fleets, but if we can enable people as well as a local authority, I think it's a really positive move to make.
Absolutely. And we're seeing a really big move where our clients, including lots of councils, are tendering for employee-wide salary sacrifice schemes so that they can demonstrate how many of their employees are now in an electric vehicle compared to, you know, an old diesel or something like that.
Yeah.
Lee, any comment from yourself?
So, was that to me, Matt? Sorry, you just broke up.
Yes, sorry. Have we still got you, Lee?
I think he's frozen.
I think he's frozen. Okay, thank you guys. So let's have a let's
I guess just to add to what was said there. I mean,
He's freezing.
Okay, so Lee's
As
obviously
far
got
as
some,
energy-
Lee's got some technical challenges. We'll wait for him. We'll let him dial back into the portal rather than hang on for him. So have a quick look at the live poll. As we said, so 45% of people say achieving net zero commitments aspirations is the toughest challenge they're facing. And unsurprisingly, cost and inflation at 23%, slightly behind, and then vehicle age and mileage. So not altogether surprising results, and obviously that's you know the environmental impact of fleet and what can we do in terms of helping you guys on that net zero road is obviously part of today's discussion. So thank you for that. So before we go into the next segment, so let's start our second poll. So this is really, you know, fact finding. So what percentage of your fleet is already electric or alternative fueled? So if we could start that poll running, that'd be great. And then we'll move on to our second discussion. So with the ever increasing pressure on environmental targets, the delicate balancing act needed with those cost pressures and targets, what does the public services fleet sector need, other than money, from the government to succeed? So Alex, maybe we'll come to you first on this one.
Well, to be fair, it really is the money, you know, because everything has a value, has a cost. You know, we can have support for manufacturers to reduce the end costs of those vehicles. We can have work with DNOs for electricity supplies in places, you know, to put the extra infrastructure, you know, because the more we're plugging in, the better the infrastructure is going to have to be. You know, everything's sort of done at a local level when it comes to charge points and when it comes to that sort of thing. And you know, if we look to Scotland, and there's very much more of a national strategy, and you know, even down to where you've got one type of sort of payment method, and one type, one size fits all, and we don't have that in England. And I think if there was a bit more of a steer, you know, I get free market, etc., but if there was a bit more of a steer and some guidance to say this is the way we expect everybody to go, you know, and we got the Levi Fund, and that was won on the basis of the sort of uniqueness almost of the bids, rather than the sort of national sort of benefit for it, you know. So it maybe it's not answering your question directly, but it's all of this sort of finance. It's all finance led. We can change driver behaviours and expectations. You know, we use our fleet. We have a try before you buy scheme in Durham where we encourage local SMEs, small medium enterprises, to try an electric vehicle to see if it works for their business. You know, we give them a free loan of it for 2 or 3 weeks or a month or whatever, just to see how that works for them. And we've had some successes. You know, they've switched to electric vehicles, and it's this wider view of just being within what we do. Me as a fleet manager, yes, I look after the council's fleet, but it's been drawn more and more into what else we can do for the wider sort of county's plan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that may, you know, if I'm getting the point across very well there, but it's
You are.
it's more to do with, to me, a bit more of a strategic sort of government-led plan.
Yeah.
To say this is how we all going to go. We are all going to use this kind of thing that will create economies of scale and give, you can have different companies doing that, but if they're all doing the same thing, it'll make it a more cost-effective solution.
Sorry.
Kat, though, you go.
As you say, it's about clarity, isn't it? When you think of the kind of the last 10 years change, we've never seen anything like the change we've had in the last 10 years, and trying to keep up with that change has been enormously difficult for you guys, whether it be, as you say, the funding's there, but it's about having the clarity of, there's lots of things going on, and no one thing kind of fits in with another in terms of the decisions that the government are making. So, we only need to look at the ZEV was announced, which we don't know fully what that really means yet. So there's another thing that we're going to have to work with. So it's just really kind of interesting to understand how you guys are managing all those changes.
Absolutely. Chris, what about your good self?
Yeah, I think my sentiment's exactly what Alex and Kat's just said, really. There seems to be a lot of inconsistency coming from maybe central government. When we've put all our eggs in the electric basket because it's here now. It's going to change in the future. We know batteries will get smaller. We know ranges will get better. There's a lot of talk about hydrogen. I mean, if you think going electric is expensive, then if you even want to sort of talk about going hydrogen, it's completely eye-watering. And yeah, it's just mixed messaging. We've got you've got the VED coming in 2025, so that's a little bit of a deterrent from going electric as well. It's hard because just when you think you're moving forward, there's always the next hurdle to overcome, whether it's energy prices going up, whether it's maybe early talks about hydrogen, which is maybe deterring people from going electric. I hoped personally over the last couple of years that we'd see electric vehicle costs come down. That's not happened. Actually, they're going up, especially if you're talking about HGV related vehicles. The price is going up. So it just seems like there's a constant battle. I think we need more renewables across the country. That will make things easier. There's other projects we're working on here as well, including vehicle to grid. We're looking at solar PVs on top of our buildings. We're looking at battery storage systems. So if we can go off grid in the next few years, if technology enables us within vehicles, within bi-directional chargers, then we'll try and do that. But at the moment, there seems to be a lot of confusion. Everyone's going separate ways. Everyone's still skeptical about moving away from ICE vehicles, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think collectively we need to be clear. We need the correct path to go down. We've chosen this path. Again, everyone else is choosing a different path, or actually hasn't chosen it yet, which is a problem with the engine, soon to be disappearing in a few years' time. So
yeah. And do you think a lot of people are holding back that I'm speaking to, saying, "Oh, there's going to be hydrogen, so we're going to wait for this," and it's like it's not going to come quick enough. You're going to need to do something. So I just wondered if you're hearing that from kind of other public sector bodies that some of them are holding back.
I think so. I think, we talk about the hydrogen model, we're going to have a Teesside hydrogen hub in 2025. So they'll produce it, but how are they going to get it to the end user? It's all of these things. It goes down to infrastructure, and as Chris said, the eye-wateringly expensive, as a sort of ballpark figure, if you're looking at a 26-ton vehicle, a battery electric's probably around £200,000 more expensive. The hydrogen one's about £400,000 more expensive. And it's as Chris, it's eye-wateringly huge amounts of money, and given the financial constraints within local government, they're not really feasible, at this current moment in time on a large scale. There's not very many authorities can afford to do that, and so potentially we'll have to look at the whole way that we do things. With regards to purchasing vehicles, do we still purchase them? Do we just contract hire them? Do we whatever?
And interestingly, as was mentioned earlier, HVO, we're having more and more conversations where people are saying, we're as an interim, we're starting to use HVO, and people are seeing some real benefits. Have you guys used HVO?
So I'm currently looking at that, Kat, actually. Because I think it's a drop in fuel, so you don't have to modify engines or fuel tanks. So it's a great temporary measure as we accelerate our electrification program. Again, the cost of it compared to standard diesel, you're looking at 40-50p more per litre. So again, environmentally, it's probably the right thing to do for now. But again, justifying the cost and going through, the hierarchy here of trying to convince everyone that it is the right thing to do is a bit of a challenge. But that's a challenge I'm going through at the moment. But again, I think it's the way forward. But there is a little bit of fears of supply. Can supply meet demand? So.
And at least you're in a good position having depots, whereas a lot of people don't have depot bunkering available to them. So it's not going to work for some, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. Yeah.
Lee, I can see you back on my screen. I hope we've got you back again. Comments on the first segment, or indeed this one from yourself?
Well, I'm hoping you can hear me now.
We can hear you.
So does it sound all good? Okay, great. So apologies. So just go back on the first segment. Is that we're in that sort of that perfect supply and demand situation at the moment, if you've ever studied that.
So where we've got
costs, we've got
disruption to vehicle supply and the supply chain around that. We've got high list prices, low discounts,
all
against a backdrop of tighter budgets and lower emission targets, which just means that as a fleet manager, I know Chris and Alex, you need to be magicians rather than just fleet managers or transport managers, because it is really, really difficult.
But I do think there are lots of opportunities because, generally speaking, you've talked about it already. You have the data to understand where your vehicles are going, what they're doing.
Routes
and vehicle usage.
And then also focus on the safety piece, which is what we're talking about as well, around where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? Which drivers can you target?
Which departments can you target to make sure that you're optimizing that? I think short term there are some opportunities as well around what you do with your existing fleet, because part of the electric piece is it right now? And actually it's about building a plan for the future. So if that's feasible, rescheduling vehicles that maybe haven't done the mileage over the last 2 or 3 years is really important as well, because maybe there's some cost savings there, certainly some savings in terms of vehicles going off road. But also operating costs are not just the sole part here. It's about having wider conversations around how do you source your renewable fuel,
get the right fleet insurance for you,
and can you negotiate a better deal there to make some savings. So it's about having conversations both with your sort of community, your supply network as well, be it dealer, accident management provider, leasing company, talking to those people as well and using their expertise and their knowledge, and sort of having a package of small steps that make one big, even during these challenging times, there are some opportunities.
Thank you, Lee. We talked a little bit about hydrogen there and the challenges facing. One of the questions that I've come across in discussions that I've had with people is about onboard power. So we talk a lot about EVs and switching to battery electric vehicles, but one of the challenges is where vehicles have got onboard power. It seems illogical that you switch to a battery electric vehicle and then run a diesel Jenny to power those items. Is that what are your thoughts, Chris or Alex, on that going forward, and any technological advances that you're seeing?
It's, to be fair, it's whatever's, because it's a specialist. The kit that we've got, we're a bit sort of manufacturer led with regards to what they actually build. So if I need a machine on the back of a van, in an ideal world, you can have a small engine driving a hybrid. So when we had a look, there was a wood chipper the other week. Timberwolf have developed a hybrid wood chipper as an example, where it's got a very small engine, 24 horsepower engine, powering a generator. It does what it needs to do. Then the electric power kicks in to give it the extra boost at high demand. It depending on where you are in the sort of equipment that you need, it doesn't very often exist. And that's one of the challenges we see. You're absolutely right. With the best will in the world, it probably is the way forward. We see it in sort of big loading shovels. You can get the hybrid big loading shovels and so on, and they do a similar sort of thing. But the market's very small and still a little bit niche.
Okay.
I think likewise for us. I think again, our procurement strategy only allows us to get full battery electric vehicles in. So we can't look at alternatives. We can't look at hybrids anymore. So they've got to be battery, full battery electric. And the problem we have with that is, I think Alex mentioned it earlier, getting equivalent vehicles is challenging, because there's some vehicles you just can't replace. So, currently our grounds maintenance team, they've got cage tippers, they've got crew cabs and a tail lift of a certain size. They want to replicate them in an electric vehicle. You just can't get that vehicle, for the payload. You just can't. There's no one manufacturing that vehicle yet. So we have to wait until someone does, and I'm pushing manufacturers and suppliers to almost create prototypes for us, so we can see how it all works. And we're happy to take it on the chin. We're happy to be the guinea pig. So if we get it, when we get it right, we can go to everyone else. We can go to discussions like this and say, like, we've got this, you can do it as well. But yeah, there's still quite a few gaps in the market. And when you've got a vision and a strategy that you can only go one direction, we've got to pretty much stick to it. So yeah, it's electric vehicles fully for now, and we can't really deviate from that, which is slowing us down slightly in terms of getting to our sort of full 530 vehicles before 2030, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. It sounds like cross collaboration between you guys is I get the sense that that's really important, and is going to become ever increasingly more so to solve the challenges that you guys are facing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you'll see lots of sort of vehicle converters and remanufacturers are sort of coming to the fore a little bit, because they've, they can maybe be a bit more nimble and adapt to people's requirements a bit easy.
Yeah.
There's nothing around. If we talk the sort of 3.5 ton van market, there's nothing can tow a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of our stuff, as Chris said, you've got 3 or 4 guys and girls in a truck and a trailer on the back with a machine and other stuff in the back of the vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
and the battery electric vehicles just don't cut the mustard in that field. It's really, really a very, very difficult market at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly, as you point out, Chris, you're trying to work with the manufacturers to bring prototypes. Are they being helpful in that sense? Are they being supportive? Because I get a sense of some of the new emerging manufacturers being a lot more helpful than some of our well-known ones.
Yeah, I think so. I've had to convince one or a couple of bus manufacturers to create me buses of a certain size with a fully accessible a bus basically with a tail lift at the back, and I've had to literally sort of kick and scream and plead for them to do so. And 2 companies have agreed to do that of certain sizes, and our first community bus should be with us in the next few weeks, which is really good news. But yeah, I mean, the fact that other bigger players, and I don't want to mention names, but big players, big OEMs are getting into the market now, which is really helpful, because they're all sort of pushing each other along a little bit, and it just raises the bar a little bit. So I think Alex mentioned earlier as well about potentially upcycling vehicles. So we've upcycled 2 refuse collection vehicles, 2 end of life vehicles that were diesel, now they're fully electric, and it saved us about £100,000 on each vehicle. We're committed to another 4, but I think more upcycling is probably the future, not just for vehicles that size, but why can't you upcycle cars, vans, and smaller cars? In a circular economy, in a world we want to recycle more, I think that's potentially the future as well. So
yeah, exactly. And have you got a forum for sharing this great stuff that you're doing amongst councils and other public sector?
Yeah, so I've been on quite a few different sort of attending a few shows, giving presentations and stuff on the stuff we've been doing, and I'm happy to share that with everyone in this group, and whoever's joined online as well. Yeah, so happy to share it, because actually I think best practice is really important, like Matthew said, and if we can all push and learn from each other, that's great, because I'm sure there's other local authorities who are doing so much as well, and maybe they're not getting the publicity, or we're not seeing what they're doing. It's really good to talk.
Lovely, thank you. That's great. Really, really, really good segment. And again, looking at our polls, we asked about what percentage of your fleet's now electric, and thank you for your answers, and thank you for your honesty, because it's very interesting for us to see. So 38% are saying 10% is now electric. We've got 29% at 0, and then obviously we've got, as we move up the grades, interestingly, we've got 5% answering that's 90% or more,
Wow.
which is really, really good news. So let's start our final poll before we start our segment. So with that in mind, have you guys actually set a date for completing the transition of your fleet to electric? And we'll let that poll run whilst we go on to our third segment, which is all about safety. So I think we can all agree that our safety and that of our employees or your employees is paramount. So what can be done to improve driver safety and reduce road risk in light of our budgetary constraints that we're going on at the moment? Kat, I'll come to you first on that one, actually, because you've done a lot on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some very simple things that can be done to kind of start people on this journey. And I ashamedly was on a driving an AA drive tech course last week for speeding. It actually was a brilliant course, and but astoundingly, there were 3 van drivers on that course with me, and none of them knew that the speed limit was different for their vans than it is for cars. And I was really sat there thinking to myself, God, you know, that's really bad. It's amazing that they've not had more points for a start, but you know, it does just go to say that there's a kind of a bit of an education piece needs to go on, not just within our clients, but also at a higher level. You know, we've got some really good organisations out there, such as Think and Break, doing some great work promoting road safety. But I do feel, again, coming back to government, really, it's about them setting out targets and a proper roadmap, really, to ensure we get to 0 road deaths. But there doesn't really seem to be much coming from them.
Okay. What about you guys out in the field? How are you dealing with it? Chris, maybe we'll come to you first.
I think probably me and Alex have got the same concerns, really. I don't know if Alex is probably an operator's license holder as well, so yeah. we're managed or looked up by the sort of traffic commissioner. So risk safety is vital importance, really. So we use telematics in our vehicles. I'm looking at another system by another supplier at the moment, which gives you real-time data when staff are driving. So it's not only good for, hopefully it's not only improving their ability to drive a little bit better, but again, it's reducing emissions, you know, reducing fuel. It's cutting out harsh braking. It's making sure they're not speeding, and it's all very important stuff, really, which all matters. And we've got over 600 drivers within our fleet, really. So there's a lot to manage. We're quite a small team as well. So yeah, it's a massive issue for us. It's a massive issue in terms of keeping on top of it, really. But yeah, we use telematics data. We use other sort of different softwares from our Key 2 system, from Vision, from the FTA. So there's lots of things we're keeping an eye on a daily basis. Drivers' hours. It's keeping on top of all that stuff, which sounds easy, but actually when you've got so many vehicles, so many drivers, it can be quite challenging, really. So every help we can get, IT related or, you know, helps, really.
Yeah. And I guess sometimes your kind of SLAs and KPIs that you might have with other departments in your organisation, or certainly in the utilities sector, you know, they've only literally got, from the minute they get that call, they've got something like half an hour to get on site and be working. So you can understand why drivers' behaviour is somewhat erratic at times when they're desperate to get to the next job.
And we're trying to digitalise a lot of the processes from our pre-use checks, which all happen online now or via an app rather than paper. So again, we're trying to reduce paper, but again, it's just another system, you know, we've got to manage here, which is great, but it's, you know, it's another challenge in itself when you're relying on so many different systems.
Yeah.
So one thing's having the data, isn't it? The second bit's how do you use it?
Absolutely.
How do you use that data to talk to your drivers or the line managers? How does that work?
So we've got different departments across Scout. So each department has their own fleet vehicles. So ultimately, if something gets pinged over to us, if there's a problem, if we've been made away from the systems that maybe someone's got 3 points on the license or a speeding fine, we'll send that information to that line manager, and they'll investigate, and then we'll get the feedback on who that was. It's just it creates a bit of a paper chain. It gets quite, you get quite a lot of people involved in stuff. Actually, if we can have a one signal dancing system which can tell you everything, from the driver's hours, from which can monitor and track everything, that would be great. But nothing quite exists yet, so we are relying on staff to do the right thing. Again, what I said earlier, if we get this new telematics type system that tells drivers in real time how they're behaving, how they're driving, just helps as well, rather than getting the bad news potentially a day or two later, whether it's a speeding fine. If you can stop it at source, fantastic. And that again might ease our workloads as well within the office here.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. It's a peculiar way to be transport managers. For like yourself, we've got a bus transport, a bus operator's license and a freight operator's license, but all of those drivers don't drive for my department. They all drive for the department. So you've got to make sure you've got to maintain those relationships and get that buy-in from them. We provide training. We have our in-house driver training section who works for me. But, interest with the telematics as well. We have also 360 cameras on a lot of our larger vehicles. We have anti-theft and anti-rollaway systems on those vehicles as well that are monitored. And telematics is great, but as Chris said, there isn't one size fits all. It's lots of manufacturers will say, well, our package is great, but because we run such a wide and varied fleet, we'll have to have a bit of a generic system that's sort of vehicle agnostic. There's no point it being dedicated to a particular vehicle because it makes our lives very, very difficult. And we're all as well tasked with digitizing the way we record stuff. So again, we're looking to a driver's app for defect report, and we are doing sort of away from, we use domestic hours, so we're using tachograph cards rather than sort of filling books in, just so that it's accurate data, that's timely. That's not without its challenges too. You've got to get the buy-in of the drivers and have them want to do that, and you can't be the person with a stick all of the time. It would be really good if we had the telematics in that said, did a good job driving today, mate.
And what about the changes to the highway code? Obviously, we've got people with drivers grappling to understand those changes. So it was yet another thing for drivers to get their heads around, really, wasn't it? Positive on the one hand, but...
It was. And again, it is down to education, and you mentioned yourself there that people didn't realise that a large vehicle has a different speed limit to a small vehicle, and I had a conversation the other day with one of like a fellow manager who didn't realise that a yellow traffic light means stop. So it's throughout. It's just people's lack of knowledge, and sort of once they've passed the test, and sometimes you look at it and say, well, we probably should be doing more driver refresher training than we do. We do toolbox talks when changes come into the highway code. We do communicate the information. Not all of the drivers have access to IT, so you can't sort of cascade it electronically. The easiest thing in the world to send a global email out with all of the information on. Unfortunately, it misses about 90% of the people it's aimed for because they are out in vehicles and don't have access to the IT system generally,
Yeah.
Thank you. That's really good. I think. And how can? So I guess we're kind of moving into the question part now. So I guess question from me before we look at the questions from the audience, and I'm glad to say that we have got some in. So please do keep them coming in this final segment. We've got about 10 minutes left for the presentation. So I guess the question from us to both of you, Alex, Chris, is how can we do more? How can we help you in the public sector more as a LeaseCo with the expertise that we have?
I mean, for me, it's having this clarity, because of the way we finance our vehicles, this clarity of this is what it's going to cost you for that over the whole life of the vehicle from point one, that we can go into things where, when I'm told that it's potentially 40-50% more expensive to lease the finance for an electric vehicle than it is for an ICE vehicle, that just flies totally in the face of where we're going. you know. So it's that sort of us all being on the same page almost. You know, I understand possible uncertainties in the market, but you know, we're all on this journey, and we need that sort of ability to say, well, it's going to be a like-for-like cost. It's not going to be vastly different, you know, like the cost of HVO. We could use HVO, but it's, as Chris said, 40%, 40p a litre more expensive. There's all of these sort of unknown costs and hidden costs, and we need that at the very, very earliest of stages, you know.
What about you, Chris?
I think
I saw a wry smile. At the question.
It's a tough one to answer, Matthew. Really, I think where we are at here. I mean, we're moving forward. We have to move forward based on the decisions that our council's made. So yeah, we're full steam ahead. How can you help things get things easier? I don't know really. It's a good question. I don't know. I think more discussions like this. I think more debates. That's a really good start, because then you're understanding everyone's issues across the country, whether it's finance. You know, probably is a lot of it will be finance, but for me personally as well, we're happy to be the guinea pigs. We're happy to prototype these vehicles. So when other local authorities do have to go down that alternative fuel vehicle route, they can have some confidence that we've gone through all the teething issues. We've got the vehicles right. Yes, you probably will have to pay a premium for an electric vehicle, whatever it might be, but at least we want them to be confident. We want colleagues across different locals to be confident that yes, Islington or Alex and Durham have got these vehicles. They've been using them well. They might not potentially save you money now, but however, this is the way forward. It will save you emissions. Go and buy this vehicle. It's tried and tested. So yeah, I think more of these discussions are really, really helpful, just to understand everyone's where they're at really. And if we can, I don't know, ease some of the pain, if we can increase confidence between us, and that would be great. And that's what I'm sort of ultimately trying to do today, and what I've been trying to do over the last 2 years, really.
Awesome. So question from, sorry, Lee, carry on.
No, I was going to say, and I think it very much depends on the makeup of your fleet as well, doesn't it? Because if we're talking about a fleet which is predominantly cars or LCVs, then clearly you can be a lot further forward in your journey than perhaps if you've got a lot of specialist vehicles or HGVs on your fleet. So there are certain things where I think some people are saying, right, okay, we've got to move in entirety and move the whole fleet across to EVs, and perhaps the more realistic approach is a stepped approach to how you move forward. So do the low-hanging fruit, the bits that you can tackle quite quickly, and then the harder stuff, which perhaps isn't quite there at the moment, then that's sort of the next stage in the puzzle.
I think Lee's absolutely spot on. You know, start with the lower hanging fruit. Go with the if your cars and your vans are your low hanging fruit, great place to start. When you're sort of going up looking at vehicles 3.5 ton and above, it gets a bit more challenging, especially if you throw in other elements into the equation, like double shifting vehicles as well, and how quick you need the vehicles to get out. Then you're talking about costs with these AC or DC chargers. So lots to consider. But yeah, definitely, like Lee said, stick or start with the low hanging fruit and then work your way up.
And sometimes it's about drivers. There's drivers really wanting to come forward and get into electric, so let them go ahead and share their driving experience and how positive it can be, rather than forcing other drivers that perhaps don't want to go down that route.
And we haven't had drivers here who've got into an electric vehicle and not liked it better than their previous diesel or petrol vehicle. So once you get them in it, there really isn't any turning back, really.
Great.
Thank you. So we have a question about tools and range anxiety that's been raised, which is a really good one actually. So obviously in the private sector you've got a lot of industrial vehicles, so the range anxiety isn't so much of a problem in terms of that mixed use. But where you do have drivers kind of saying, well, I can't possibly do this in an EV because of my range or that kind of thing. So what desktop tools do you have? And I'll come to you and you guys, Lee and Kat, because I know that what we've got in our tech suite. But what do you guys use to help persuade your drivers that it'll be okay, it's fine?
For me, we have a lot of historical data about their actual use. Our fleet management system records how miles per year. You can split that down to periods of time, all of this sort of thing. And generally speaking, the range anxiety 2 years ago did have some bearing on everything, because you were looking at vehicles that came with maybe 100 miles range on a good day with a fair wind. Put that on a day like we had yesterday when it was frosty and cold, and it would probably only do 75. And when people have got ranges around that sort of daily use, you can understand it. And it's that there's no wriggle room. There is no spare capacity in that. So hence the anxiety. Nowadays, those same vehicles, when we're buying them now, have got nearly 200 miles range. So that range anxiety becomes a thing in the past. But we've still got to educate these drivers that the new vehicles are not like the old vehicles. The use of them is wonderful, and as Chris said, I've never known anybody who's taken an electric vehicle out who said, "Oh, I'd much rather have a one with an engine," because they are so much better to drive. They are much better for your well-being. The much more relaxed environment to be in, and it's selling the whole package rather than just sort of concentrating on one particular aspect, and to divert that sort of focus on range. And that'll also be helped when we get a better infrastructure in place. When, for me, a charge card that'll use the whole public domain as well as depot charges, because we cannot rely just on depot charging.
Yeah, and that is a really good point. Thanks, Alex. Talking to, say, housing that don't necessarily always have the depot structure that the councils have, it being a challenge. But we're seeing now where housing associations 18 months ago even were really holding back and saying, "Oh yeah, we've done another project and it can't work for us." Now some of them are really ahead of the curve. They've ordered their batches of 100 eVivaros or whatever they are, and they're calling them off and doing, as you say, the drivers really liking them. Some have come across challenges where people have prepaid meters at home, so we've been hearing about how they've been engaging with their drivers and other members of staff to help them fit better meters, where they're not having to go to the corner shop and pay to stock up their meter. So yes, some really good things, and organisations such as MENA that allow that charging infrastructure and give you that data to understand where drivers are charging. It gives them a payment method. There's some really positive organisations out there with really great applications for usage.
And indeed, adding to that, OZEV and Energy Savings Trust, in terms of some of the data that they're aggregating around heat maps from where charge points are, where high mileage is done in more rural areas, it's starting the collaboration, the cross-pollination between government departments, between councils, between organisations. Because as you guys have both said today, we're all on this journey, and it's going to take this joint thinking and this to work out some of this stuff whilst the infrastructure is put in.
Yeah.
Lee, Kat, anything on our tools that we can help?
Well, I was actually just going to say it's also about driver education as well, because I think that's a key part. People perhaps don't think so much when they're driving a nice vehicle around how heavy their right foot may be, and the braking and all that sort of stuff. When you're in an electric vehicle, that becomes really apparent because you can see the range right in front of you. So you do change your driving behavior. That just happens, but also educating drivers to how to drive, how to maximize the battery is really, really powerful. And we've certainly found that we drive electric vehicles at LeasePlan. And certainly I know, speaking from personal experience, my driving behavior has changed massively since I've been driving an electric vehicle.
Yeah, mine too. Thank you. Guys, we are running out of time. So a quick look at that last poll in terms of people's plans. Again, thank you for your honesty. 47% of people said no, they haven't got a date for completing the transition of their fleet. What's really good is 20% said yes by 2030. We've got 7% by 2035 and 27% said other. So again, a real mix. So I would, encourage those attendees, if you want to reach out for a one-to-one with, myself or Lee or Kat, we'll make sure you've got our emails. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you, whether it's about fleet funding, which is obviously, paramount in kind of Alex's mind. That's where I spend most of my time, or any of the other topics today. So thank you, everyone, and to our amazing panelists for their insights today. I've certainly found it fascinating. There've been plenty of questions. That's great. And I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. We'll make sure we get those answered by email. I'm sure many in our audience have been diligently taking notes throughout today's discussions. But in case there's anything you need to reference back to, fear not. The on-demand version of today's discussion will be available. That'll be available to watch back in the platform within 48 hours. And again, if any of our audience would like to reach out for a one-to-one, either let myself, Catherine, or Lee know. We'll make sure you have our contact details.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again. Have a lovely, productive rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care out there.